Okay, so this is a clear machine only with our proxy that we need to use with installed Minikube and Docker and kubectl, but without running Minikube. So we need to run it.
Okay.
So first, I think it's the best way to debug it, to make it from the start, from the beginning. So you want me to start it with driver known or with driver Docker?
Utkarsh, all of the above, maybe. Like it's bothersome that it doesn't work in all the situations. Like, yeah, so maybe let's start off with your preference and then take it from there. I think one thing that, yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't know that I can't remember if I mentioned this before or not, or maybe you commented on it and I didn't even see it, but the IP address range being used is, technically illegal, or like technically not that not that, and so I don't know if that causes an issue with any of the systems. But if you have a different range, that would at least eliminate that as a possibility.
Yes, no, it's in the lab, so I don't know how exactly the network goes.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
How it's the firewall and so on. So
yeah, it makes sense. The thing is like, from what I'm seeing, it's probably a network issue. Like the issue boils down, or maybe you've seen a couple of issues, but or you have, right? And I think we fixed those bugs in some releases, but yeah, the outstanding issue is the lack of Meshery server's ability to connect to Kube API. And that is either literally a network, challenge, or like a credential challenge are the two most likely culprits. And so
I think I will stop it and run it again with 4 CPUs, because it will be faster.
cool. And then so yeah, hey Robert, it's nice to be able to catch up just like this. This Ubuntu VM, or rather, just to clarify, this is a VM, not a bare metal system.
Yeah, it's a kind of virtual machine in the mass machine. Maybe it's also the issue about the port forwarding, because and now I log here in the SSH, and all with the browser, what I see on the dashboard is port forwarded to my web browser here.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay. So now I'm starting the Meshery with your command with platform Docker. Okay.
Okay.
So this one.
Okay. And you are okay. So Husseina, are we tracking that issue where we're not gracefully handling the dependency on zip?
I think we don't check whether unzip is present or not first. Maybe I can add a check for that.
Thank you. Yeah. And we might even want to switch to something more ubiquitous like tar. I'm assuming tar is a little more potentially readily available.
Yeah. So then we need to actually upload a tar bar instead of a zip file.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay.
The release. Yeah.
Is that okay? So doesn't tar have the ability to use gzip? Doesn't have the ability to support compression and unzip? Like, I could be wrong.
Can I ask, do you hear the water from me if I don't if I'm silent, or it's not? Okay.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Okay.
Okay, I diverted my attention for 2 seconds. I want to make sure that we get every single little item that you bump into. So the only one thus far is not handling the dependency on unzip.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, which provider?
The Meshery, if you would.
Okay. Okay, I need to be login because I always use the second, the none.
Yeah, you can use none as well. You'll end up yeah, that's fine. And when you get into the tool further, at some point you might want to try the other provider because you'll notice a difference. We'll see if that day ever comes. One thing about the other provider is it provides persistent storage of your performance tests.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, that's good every time.
Yeah, it's that's a little bit of a nuisance. I don't know if I should, so that's kind of an annoying so guys, I'm distracted and taking notes and other things.
Yeah, Robert, can you run this command? Let me quickly send it to you.
Yeah, what can I exactly?
Yeah, I'm sending you a command in the chat. Can you quickly run that? Basically, that will minify your
I'm not clearly hearing you, so I not understand correctly.
I'm actually sending you a command in the chat. Can you run that once I do? Just a minute.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a minute. It's the second time I use the Zoom. No. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, try uploading this YAML on the UI that we just found.
So
Yeah, it would be might be in your hidden .q folder.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Give me a minute. So, one second. Okay.
Cool. So yeah.
I think it's going to time out. It's taking a very long time. Can you, in your terminal, Robert, can you try running kubectl get nodes just to see if the nodes are actually up and there is no issue in Presto? Okay.
And then, yeah, being able to run that same command from the Meshery server. So I guess that is where Meshery server is. If you do a Docker PS here, okay, so you've got Meshery running locally. And yep, so it is a network connectivity, or must be a network connectivity challenge, because so if you do Minikube IP, and actually, Ukarsh, I didn't mean to take over the helm. Sorry. And if you take a look at that, yeah, the Minikube config, that YAML file, it should have that same IP address in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
All right. And it's got the certificate data there. And so for maybe we should take a look at the Meshery server logs. Like, so you did a Meshery CTL system logs, and then Kubernetes client not initialized.
I go to up. Okay.
Sweet. And I wasn't paying attention the whole time, but where it's saying it can't reach the certificate file, that was just on initialization. It can't reach the certificate file. So then Robert minified his kube config, exported the certificate data into the YAML file. He's uploaded the YAML file, and about where his mouse is now, client key, okay. But so if you keep going a little past this, yeah. So those other error so Meshery, when you boot it up, by default, it's gonna it'll look to your .cube folder and load up your Kubernetes config and attempt to connect to Kubernetes just using the current context. in the case of Minikube, it doesn't have access to the certificate data, that file. So it can't auth. And then that's why after you run the Minikube minify, or the minify command, the certificate data is included in the file. And when you upload the file, Meshery should be able to connect then because it has the right authentication info. So on like right where your mouse is, or 2 lines above your mouse, I think is where we start. It says operator subscription started, meaning that underneath the covers, Meshery was probably able to connect. Mesh sync subscription started. So I don't know, Utkarsh, it looks like we're still looking for the certificate data. Or
I think that's an older error. If you would hit enter and then try uploading the config again, I think the main error that we are getting here is that this particular IP address, basically the Kubernetes API service is not responding back. It's the request is timeout. Basically, and that's actually the last error. It's probably a connectivity issue.
Yep. So Utkarsh, in order to test that, you're asking Robert if you'll hit enter a couple of times, and then
actually just to confirm, if it's like if the configuration is valid for Meshery server, you can hit enter so that we can observe new logs, and then try uploading the configuration again.
Okay, if you, I got some internet drop, so I don't clearly hear you. So if something is to do so, just
Okay, yeah, basically what I was saying was, can you hit enter so that we can observe new logs, and then in the Meshery UI, try uploading the configuration again so that we can see if it's actually a connectivity issue or we are still having the path related issue, just to clear it out.
okay, so can you follow me? The way?
Okay, now just hit enter, enter key.
Yeah.
Yeah, good enough. In the UI.
yeah.
What
So
was
let me yeah, Robert, if you don't mind, if you hit the up arrow, go back to Meshery CTL system logs.
Okay.
In this case, if you would put an additional argument, I think it's just Meshery. Actually, with no flag, it's just Meshery, and that should filter to just Meshery servers logs. If you hit enter there, and then just to demark where we are now, if you hit enter a few times just to give us some space, we'll leave that as tailing. You go back to the UI, re-upload the file just as a simple test, just to verify that in fact we're seeing the same error, which I'm quite sure that we will, which is going to say that it tries to connect but can't. So if you go back to the logs, great. So I think, yeah, because the screen was refreshed, it will look for your local file, local kube config, which doesn't, you know, which isn't, it's not, which doesn't have the credential information. So if you go to the very bottom, okay, I mean, so a couple of things, like one is just to help like with the eliminate additional overhead of logs. Yeah, I mean that's the real error right there, is that Meshery server is not able to reach that IP address. And so the way that your Docker is configured on your host the way that Meshery is deployed on that Docker host it seems like it's not able to route to that network. So it's 192.168.49.2. If you cancel this, do like a Docker network inspect, Docker network ls.
Docker network.
Yeah, ls for list.
Okay.
And Meshery should be on the Meshery default. So if you do Docker network inspect Meshery default, I mean, what's happening is a very, very simple issue, actually. Like this, your biggest hang-up is just Meshery is in a private network on 172.16, and Minikube is in a private network 192.168.49. And Docker is not connecting the two. These two are running on two independent private networks that are unknown to each other and don't have a way of communicating. That's the issue.
Okay.
And so one way to circumvent this is to use host-based networking for both. Another way is to connect one network to the other. If you would do me a favor, and if you go to docs.meshery.io, to the Meshery documentation, it has instructions for both of the way to minify your kube config, which is what you just did in a minute. So docs.meshery.io. Yeah.
Robert, I shared the link in chat. Yeah, you can just use that. Okay, never mind.
So there, yeah, I mean, there's one of the ways to accomplish to connect these two disparate networks is to, use Docker to connect those two networks, to bridge the two bridges, if you will.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, you know what, just to spare us some of the extra logs that are getting in our way, can you do me this favor? Can you move the Minikube config that you minified, that YAML file that you minified? Can you move that to .cube/config?
So, can you repeat the source?
Yeah, it's .cube. Yeah. Yep. In this case, yeah. You were close. You just didn't need the backside. There you go.
Okay, one more time.
Yep. So it's that blue hidden folder that's just above. It's .cube/config. And now this is going to overwrite that config file. So I'm assuming that you don't need that config file because it. But just in case, just in case you need to save off that config file for whatever,
Okay.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, if you don't mind, can you just do a move config to config.old, something like that?
Okay. Okay, I can change the out.
Cool. And then cool. And if you
Like that.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And that'll just, that just makes things a little easy. Okay. And if you go back to Meshery UI and refresh, and we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, nice, good. There will, if we, good, okay. All right, let's play around a little bit. Let's flex your system and make sure it's, doing good. Do you mind? Let's just provision a quick service mesh and provision an app and just kind of test it out real quick. So if you go to the Istio adapter.
Okay, exactly. If we go, can we do it? Give me a minute, because here is the Nighthawk generator. Yeah,
yeah.
And if we could, for example, do something with that. Can we some workload generator put on that?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you take that URL that you have there, and yeah, let's hammer it. If you go to there's a performance. Yeah, you super. Yep.
Should I use one or something?
Nah, yeah, in this case, none, just because it. And then depending upon the load, yeah. Yeah, damn it. All right. I think we have a bug with Nighthawk. Maybe. Let's see. Can you switch it back to Fortio and hit run test or save, yeah. Okay. Actually, it might be the case that URL is not, that network is not accessible to Meshery, where Meshery is sitting, maybe. So if you do this, if we attach to the Meshery server and try to curl that URL from the Meshery server, then we'll know if, yeah. And so this VM, I think this VM.
Okay. So that's
Lee, sorry to interrupt, that the issue with the performance test might not have made it to the latest release. I believe Drew already fixed that. It might be a bug.
Okay, but also his VM. I mean, if that VM can't access that URL, then it doesn't have anything to do with Meshery.
Yeah. So that's on my side.
But yeah, if you do, I don't know. Heck, I don't know if you want to just like as a quick test, like hit, HTTPS www.google.com or something just to, have a successful. Okay, and it may be that. So you did say that, and it was obvious that that VM does allow outbound internet connection. Okay, so this, if we try that, this could be the, okay. So in this case, that's fine. Like for Fortio, Meshery will redirect, it will accept that redirect and it will try the www. It's saying like, oh, you didn't include www. But that's fine. Meshery for Fortio, Meshery supports redirecting. I think it's going to fail again based on what Nivendu was just saying, which is there was just a recent bug in the UI here that has been corrected. And so Nivendu, have we made a release of that yet or no?
No, we haven't made a release.
But it's in the Edge release?
Yeah, it's in the Edge release.
Okay. Yeah, this is actually kind of nice to get Robert familiar with more of Meshery. So Robert, that's a valid test. And Fortio as a load generator, Meshery will accept that redirect and whether you are using www or not. On Nighthawk, I don't believe that will work for the moment with how Meshery deals with my Nighthawk, but we'll get there. As a matter of fact, I'm encouraged that you're here because I want you to, there's a number of things that I'm looking to have validated. Can you do this for me? So there's a bug in this stable release in the UI that's preventing this particular thing, which has been fixed and is released in our other release channel. There's a stable release channel and there's an edge release channel. Conceptually, the bug is fixed in the edge release channel. So great. So how do you switch over? Okay, I'm glad you asked. If you go to if you go to the Meshery dashboard really briefly, just to just for like double, if you go to, there's an exactly. Okay, it does say that you're currently, your channel subscription in the lower right hand corner says that you're on and then the bottom widget, the bottom dashboard widget, it says you're on the stable channel and you're on version 541. Great, and that's the latest stable release. Great. I just wanted to highlight the fact that that info is accessible there. If you go back to your terminal, another way of kind of verifying that same info in your terminal is to run Meshery CTL version. And Navendu, if we hit a bug here, I'm gonna be upset. No, we don't. Okay, good. And so it'll, it tells you Meshery CTL, the client is at that version, and so is your server. Great. It's a double verification. All right. So how do you switch to the edge channel? Well, you can use Meshery CTL to do that. Meshery CTL has contexts, just like kubectl does. So you do Meshery CTL system context. System channel, because we want to deal with channels. Switch edge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so so it's taking down your stable channel deployment and it's switching that local content. There's a Meshery, just like there's a kube config file, there's a mesh config file. And in the mesh config file, you have one context. Right now it's called local. And basically that command just switched that context to, instead of being subscribed to the stable channel, it's subscribed to the edge channel. So now it's downloading a whole new, it's downloading all the new images for that.
Okay.
And then, hopefully what our mileage might vary a little bit. Like I'm a little bit unsure about the Nighthawk implementation that we have is lesser used than Fortio, but it's absolutely where we want to go and focus and spend a lot more time on. I mean, that isn't, hopefully that's obvious, but and so we'll see how it performs.
Okay, ask a question. If we get it done, can we just try to run into with Kubernetes as a platform, or it's better, it's easier, or it's better to use?
No, that I think that'd be great. Let's get you. Well, let's get you comfortable with, doing all the things.
Because that was really fast, and I tried really many options with changing the owner and so on with the certificates, and it didn't work. And it was a different kind of issue, I think, for me exactly. It looks like different.
Yeah.
So, but if not, it's good that it all works on the Docker, so it's nice.
Yeah. So Utkarsh, Navendu, Husseina, one thing that is a hindrance, it's an impedance to people to users who are running Minikube. There's two hindrances, and they're both the same thing. It's like the inability for Meshery to source the appropriate certificate data. If we add a mount to the Minikube folder so that Meshery can actually access that file, that path, do we then circumvent a lot of these challenges?
Yeah, we used to have it. 4-5 months ago. I'm not sure why it was removed, but yeah, we used to have it. We used to mount to Minikube paths under a container.
If it's mounted, do you know if, yeah, I guess it's evident from the log that we'll actually source from that file. Right? It's not required that it be in the config.
Yeah, actually, it does solves the issue in the way that Meshery server can now basically communicate with the API server, but it doesn't fixes the issue that the adapter cannot, because the files are available in server.
Oh yeah, that the adapter. Yeah. Well, then that's Utkarsh where, yes, please then write the routine that sources the files for Meshery server, minifies them, passes it along. Yeah, this is good. Then that only leaves folks that use Minikube with one challenge, and that's just it's basically the issue that Robert has run into, which is it's non-obvious. And I mean, granted, the docs, we have docs that say what to do, good, but even then, like Robert's has a high IQ, and it's not obvious to, he's not having the best of experiences because who reads the docs? Like, I don't. And plus it's like he wouldn't necessarily, anyway, there are things that we can do to improve, like that error code that's being shown, like, we need to, there's things that we can do to improve. That can be to basically the error code in which, actually, it's a good question. I think the error code that comes back saying that we can't connect to Kubernetes API. I think if you look on the troubleshooting guide in Meshery docs, it might point this out, actually. So fine. So we've done a good job of documenting, but even at that, it's not necessarily obvious to users. The other thing we can do outside of the in-cluster deployment, Robert, is we can also maybe deploy a service mesh with a sample app on it. Now, if you're not into the service meshes just yet, that's fine. We don't have to do that now, but I figure the more that you wrap your arms around Meshery's functionality, the more comfortable you become, and all the better.
Well, I just start with the envoy proxy with the to use it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It's the downloading going really slow. It's on the lab side, on the machine side, or?
It would be pulling from Docker Hub. I don't know that Docker Hub would be, like, they have rate limiting on Docker Hub, which would just be an all-out, like, deny the pull. I don't know that they have a throttling turned on. So they might, but I don't. Do you guys know if they throttle? Docker Hub throttles that? I didn't think they did. I mean, we've met with that. I mean, that team actually is funny. Robert, the Docker Hub engineering team wants to meet with us because they want to do more advanced rate limiting using some of the filters and things that we've been working on. So kind of funny because we should know this a little bit better. We haven't spent that much time with the team yet, though. Now, Robert, as you get in and you do run some performance tests and you look at the results, I would encourage you to continue to be, please be vocal with your feedback, because we're going to try to make, because the way that the performance graphs are displayed, I think the histogram that is displayed is probably about right. Like that's the kind of data that you need. You do like it bucketized, like it's probably about right. But there's some other there's other aspects of the way that it's presented that I think is non-intuitive, and it makes people sit there for a while just trying to grok the results. So as you get in there, please don't be shy with feedback on what you like and what you don't like.
Okay.
One of the things that you'll be, and again, it'll be kind of interesting to watch you hopefully not fumble on this, but like after you've run, let's say you've run 3 performance tests or a bunch. And at some point you're like, well, okay, look, I want to compare what was the performance difference between this test and my other test, because you changed part of Envoy's config, or you did something and you want to compare. Well, Meshery facilitates that. And that's as far as I'll tell you. So let's see if it's intuitive enough for you to be able to compare 2 of them or 3 of them or 4 of them. One of the things that we're working to help make easier for users is well, there'll be a connection wizard, which you might have seen demoed recently, but we want to make it easier for users to connect Prometheus and Grafana, because it's one thing to run a performance test and have Meshery analyze the latency and throughput, and to analyze the characteristics of those particular series of requests. That's great and it's helpful and it's good. But also, you might want to be looking at other metrics, like system metrics for CPU or memory or other things. And so Meshery, supports connecting to a Prometheus instance, a Grafana instance, to be able to retrieve any other metrics as well. So that's another area, eventually for you to explore.
Yeah, sure. In the future, I think I will use
and
it.
Meshery's, a lot of the service meshes, anyway, a lot of the service meshes do come with a Prometheus and a Grafana. So you can use like the Istio adapter to deploy a Prometheus and a Grafana instance, to the extent that that is helpful to you. So the bandwidth here is interesting. I don't know if.
Can I maybe abort it and retry?
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it might have gotten a bad. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's something else to familiarize briefly is, well, assuming that that's not going to be done. Okay, yeah. I don't know if you were able to open up a different terminal session there. You could see that you can look at your mesh config. So if you did a Meshery CTL system context view, this will tell you about the Meshery deployment that you've done. And so, yeah, it's permanently changed on this system for now. It's permanently changed to the edge channel. Yeah, exactly. And so that switch command has that effect. It rewrites the file, and you can add additional contexts if you like maybe actually let's do that while because we know that you want to deploy in cluster at some point. Can you do this? If you do a Meshery CT, I feel bad like telling you the commands because it would be good to watch you do a user study and watch you figure. But if you want to create another context, but in this case, where it says platform Docker, you actually want it to say platform Kubernetes.
Well, it was, I was here somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. Damn it. You don't, we can't tell you how long we spend on trying to make these as intuitive as, if you do a -- all after this, or the view -- all.
No, like O.
Oh, yeah, with an actually, if you just do -a, one -a. Oh, okay. Then yeah, I'm sorry. It is --all.
All. Okay.
And yeah. So the issue with the test context and the view context is they still have the Docker platform. So again, I'm gonna be quiet for a moment just to see if someone with a reasonably high IQ, if it becomes, self-evident or not. Like this is a good.
Right, it's better. I wouldn't do that. So you, if I could understand you, you mean to change the platform from Docker to Kubernetes here from the context, from the command line. Correct. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. And you were actually, I think the first time you were about to get it. So it was, if you do Meshery CTL system context create, and in this case, maybe call it Kate's, or I don't know, or something, or cube, or yeah, there you go. And before you hit, if you hit enter now, it's going to choose the default. It'll just choose all the defaults for that context. Instead, if you pass along a flag for platform, like a -p or a -- platform, either way, and then you say Kubernetes, yeah. There you go.
Okay, and if I were to change it when it's created, for example, the test context, can I do it?
Right. Yeah. The way that, that's a great question. So we didn't take it as far as, we didn't take it as far as providing commands to change each attribute. But we knew that the platform one was kind of special, like it was something that people would want. And the adapters one works as well. Like if you just want a shorter list of adapters, you can also pass in a hyphen, a flag for adapters and specify a shorter list. And for the rest of the things, and then also for the channel, we let people configure channel. We actually let them configure token as well. Like actually we do let people configure a fair bit. I guess we don't expose the platform as its own thing. So the way that you would correct that for like the test context is you would VI this particular YAML file. So the thing that you're displaying is just, it would be VI in your dot Meshery. It's just another hidden folder. Yeah, Meshery. Or in your local, in your home, in your user's home folder. There we go. That config.yaml, if you, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And it will honor changes that you do here. So.
Okay.
As a side note to Husseina and to Nivendu, the meshery.yaml, it's not in an ideal place because that's a Docker Compose file that really needs to go under manifests. So Husseina, I think you're tracking an issue for unzip. Nivendu, you might open one for just relocating that file under manifests. Now, something else that intrigues me, and so Utkarsh, when you ask people to minify the config, you'll ask them to run a kubectl command, which works, right? Which does that. There's also a Meshery CTL command to perform that, but that command requires a token, right? So Robert, if you were to type Meshery CTL system config, and here there are, oh, that's this. So Husseina, can you take a note on this? The see how it says
config string there.
Yeah, it just tells people, hey, you didn't give it all the arguments that are needed, and it's not helpful. Like, we don't need to tell them that. We need to tell them, we need to be more intelligent and say, oh, you're missing a choice of EKS, AKS, GKE, Minikube.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, how come that is missing? Yeah, it's a keyword, right? Yeah.
Say it again, Husseina.
Yeah, the keywords are missing, right, from the help text.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And also, it feels better when you don't show the user an error. If you're going to give them the helpful information, we could just remove the error statement as well.
Yes, sure.
So, Robert, if you were to continue with that command, you would, you'd actually type Minikube after that. And I think if you hit enter, it'll tell you you need a token. Yeah, but this command, that actually would minify your kube config as well. So we can keep it all in the family, Utkarsh. But the issue, that the thing that's kind of a pain, more of a pain with this command, is that it wants you to give it a Meshery token. Now, Utkarsh, if the system, the Meshery CTL system login command, that's not going to help here.
Yeah, actually, that will expect that the browser can open because both of them are going to communicate, but Meshery CTL is itself not on host and the browser is somewhere else. So.
Okay. Okay. So Robert, yep. When this edge release does come up, this is what I would expect would be your experience. You may or may not need to run that connect command again to interconnect your Docker networks. I'm not sure. You would then get the UI up. It would confirm to you that you're running the edge latest. That's what you'd be able to go to the performance area. You'd be able to use Fortio to generate load against google.com or some URL. You'll find that it fails for the Envoy URI just based on local networking, and that's you will. I am not sure at this very moment what you will. There are certain scenarios in which Nighthawk as a load generator might not work, but there are many other situations in which it will, and I just don't know for sure. Yeah, so I'm tentative there. We need to go. It's just my lack of memory, really.
Okay.
Yeah. There is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but since we're talking, there's do you guys use any GitHub workflows, like GitHub's CI system?
CI, you mean continuous integration, or?
Yeah.
Not
I mean,
GitHub. We got a team with that, but.
Right. Okay. Yeah. If it were to be, anyway, just FYI, there's a GitHub action for running Meshery performance tests from GitHub continuous integration. So if it was the case that either projects that you're working on are hosted on github.com, or if you guys are running GitHub Enterprise internally, I'm mentioning that there's this GitHub action that makes it convenient to be able to integrate Meshery's performance tests into your pipeline. So just a random fact. And what else? So when you run a when Prometheus or Grafana are connected at the same time that you're running, well, okay, let me step back and say, Meshery will at the same time that you run a performance test, if Meshery is connected to a Kubernetes cluster, it will collect a few statistics about metrics about the CPU and memory and node size for that cluster, because that's relevant, to the extent that you're load testing things running on Kubernetes. So keep that in the back of your mind. Utkarsh, do you know, are we showing those details to users when they look at performance reports?
So when the tests come up, then we do, at that time we do, but later on, basically it's not shown when you would see from the table or card. So initially, yes, but then.
Yeah, but that is being persisted, or that is being sent to the provider. Okay, it's just a matter of retrieving and showing that. So Utkarsh, you have full knowledge of what we're talking about. Can you write an issue and hand that to Nitish or, you know? Nivendu, there's one other issue, if you don't mind writing up, and that is when Robert first signed into Meshery UI, he was getting immediate, red notifications right, in his face that were saying Meshery can't connect to Prometheus, Meshery can't connect to Grafana, and that's good that it's trying to connect, but it doesn't need to shove that in Robert's face. Apologies, I need to take this call. I'll be right back. Good. Did we capture the issue, Utkarsh or Navendu, about the mounting of the kubeconfig folder to just make it more convenient for people?
Yeah, not
Okay. And Husseina, I really appreciate the fact that you're joined, especially at this hour. And Husseina, if you need to go, please don't feel obligated. It might be good use of our time to discuss like the fix for. So Hussein, I think if a system like the Ubuntu system that Robert is on doesn't have the prerequisite unzip, then well, minimally we'll want to handle that gracefully and say, oh, you're missing this, please install unzip. And granted, that's like system specific. So in Robert's case, it's apt get, but it could be, it could be whatever.
Math specific, some instructions.
Yeah. And so that's like reason, that's if we try to take it too much further, we'll probably end up in hot soup again, where we're just trying to make it really convenient for people and kind of creating our own bugs. But so long as we're informing them of what the issue is. And
yeah, changing it to tar would require changes in the CI/CD flow also, right? As of now, it is, yeah.
Yeah, and And I think that that's okay. Or like, I don't think that there's any other dependencies on that format other than just the Meshery bash script. And so, and right now, the only artifact that we really need to give people is the Meshery CTL. So we don't have a bundled set of other things. Now, we were just discussing on the Envoy WebAssembly filters call yesterday, the notion that we might package and ship some sample filters for people to use. And so like, oh, I don't think that the delivery mechanism that we will use though, I don't believe that it would be to packages in that same Meshery CTL zip. Like I think the delivery mechanism is separate. So, so just kind of talking out loud because I don't think that we'll have, I don't think we have a use case for having anything but the binary. And it might have just been our lack of ability to tweak and configure Go releaser. So I do think that that's an open possibility for you as well. Not that, and Rudraksh is a good individual to ask for, if you go that path to
Okay.
I've got some question.
Yeah.
Two, exactly. First, I'm not sure, but I think I uploaded the file via the dashboard. This with config, this one which we renamed in the kube the directory, and I think that it didn't work, but I will try one more time after we finish. So is it possible that did it work uploading via the dashboard and renaming and replacing the file in the directory worked?
Right. Yep. Yeah, thanks for being diligent on that. Yeah, I am convinced that if you upload the minikube config.yaml or that separate file, that if you upload it, it will also connect. Like, yep. The reason that we had done the 2 move operations was so that you don't have to upload the file, because Meshery server, whenever it's not connected to Kubernetes, it tries to connect. And so it will look around for you. It will look to your local kube config. If you don't have an established connection, it will look to your local kube config to that very file. And so since it's doing that already, we were just like, okay, spare Robert having to upload it, just move it to that file. And then, but either way would get you to the same.
Okay, so next question. So in the docs installation platforms minikube, exactly where is the command with kubectl config view minify flatten to config minikube YAML? It will be not easier to make it here to create this config exactly in this hidden kube config directory and replace it here against of creating it here and uploading it manually via the dashboard?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a good. So here's, dude, you're one of 9,000 people who've, well, like 500 people who've gotten kind of hung up on this particular. So the current proposal is, so there's a couple of things that are around this area. One, not everyone uses, this is something for us as a project to think about in general, is like, not everyone uses certificate data to auth to their kube systems. Some of them have open OIDC or other third-party, other directory services. Okay, geez, so that's something to deal with separately. Okay, some people have a pre-established kube config file that has, connections to different Kubernetes systems that so it's near and dear to them, that config file. Okay, so we don't want to mess, we want to be careful with how we mess with that. Okay, fine. Well, when you start up Minikube, it edits that file and adds a reference to itself. And in the reference, that for the Minikube context, it points to, it says, if you want to get the certificate data, which is how you connect how you auth to that Kubernetes, that Minikube system, follow this file system path to do that, to get the certs and use the certs. When Meshery server as a container spins up and mounts the local file system of your Ubuntu system, it only mounts a select few paths. One of them, most notably, that it doesn't mount is the .minikube folder. So if we add the .minikube path to as a mount point, or as a mount for Meshery server, that actually, I think, will circumvent exactly what you just said. Like it'll prevent the need for people doing the minification, because the minification won't be necessary, because Meshery server can already has reachability of those certs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, little.
Okay. Yeah, because the minification process, what it is doing, that flattening and minifying, what it is doing is it opens up a Kubernetes config file. If it sees file system references to the, like if you do a kubectl config view, I think it is, or something like that, config current con, yeah. So in here, the flatten and minify command, it will look through your kube config, and anywhere that it finds a file system reference to certificate data, the redacted part, actually what's redacted is not it is, well, yeah, actually what's redacted right now is in fact a certificate data. That's because we minified it, but otherwise it would just be a file system reference. So the point is like the minifying and flattening, it pulls, it reaches in that when you run that kubectl command, it will open up those certificate files, extract the contents, and paste the contents into the config file. So yes, I think the answer to what you'd said, like your point, yes, exactly what you said. There's just a little bit, there's just another step that Meshery can take to stop making people perform that extra task of flattening and minifying. Like, why doesn't Meshery just do that? Yes, it should. Let's do that. So Utkarsh has opened an issue on that. And by the way, just, I mean, to the extent that Robert is interested to watch that or get updates on it, that issue then is just, well, I guess Utkarsh literally hasn't opened it, but I know that he's spending this time valuably by opening. Okay, cool. And Hussein, I know are you opening that unzip issue? No.
Yes.
The reason that one, we have time, but two, I can't tell you how many times I talk to someone and they're like, yeah, I'll open that issue. And it never happens. Now, Robert, the one thing about, even if Meshery performs the automatic minification and flattening, even if it gets access to that certificate data, that's still the challenge of that networking challenge of the two networks being disconnected. That will still remain. And then you might say, well, okay, hey, why doesn't Meshery just connect those two networks? And it's like, it totally could. And then what we find is the next person comes along and they say, oh, I'm not, like, it's a lot of assumptions, and we assume a whole heck of a lot already, trying to make it a good experience where you just out of the box, you run one command, boom, it comes up. And that's actually what you ran into with the XDG open, was it was assuming that you had a web browser, that Ubuntu system had a web browser, because it was trying to provide a pleasant experience of like bringing up the UI. So now it captures, it gracefully handles that, but that would be kind of, it's just another example of like, oh, if we go to connect those two networks, like, oh, maybe they, maybe we should, minimally, we should be trying to make that obvious to people, like, yeah, so.
Yeah. Exactly about the Minify. I didn't thought about do it automatically, that it will replace the config file. I just mean that on this website where you where the tip exactly is the command to create the config minikube YAML file with the command. Also, it could be maybe it's a tip if or you can put it because of not uploading the kubeconfig via the web UI. You can also put it on that kube hidden directory. So
yeah,
I will also try that, because I'm not sure, but I think I tried about 10 or 50 times. Maybe I made something wrong before, so that didn't work. Maybe I didn't set the network, the bridge, so that's why. But I'm sure I've put it 10 times exactly. Maybe the connect bridge didn't work.
Yeah, good. You're right. Like, hey, that thing that you did, that would make for a great tip, like what you just said. Like, hey, if.
So the user can choose if he wants to put it via the dashboard or put it here.
Yeah. And actually, the fact that it's been flattened and minified is not, they don't lose any data. They're still going to have all of their context, however many contexts they had in there. It's just going to, include the certificate data if it didn't before. So it's not like it's not that invasive. I mean, but yeah, minimally having a tip in the docs too. So I'll take that note. Robert, I'll say this. I'm saying this in seriousness, and this is, but don't feel obligated. I only say it just in case this is something that you like or that you desire to do, because the community that we have of 1,700 people, like, they're here, in large part because they want to contribute to something. I'm going to go create this issue. If you wanted to update the docs, in accordance with that issue, you're welcome to, but don't feel obligated to. I just wanted you to understand that it's open to you as well. So it's not like you're part of the club, is what I'm saying. So.
If I understand you correctly, also the Edge context will make it that I haven't a stable release. I've got some some stuff that it's not merged and it's not checked in the master branch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So So that's why I will have the port.io, yeah, benchmark to working, yeah.
Right.
I understood, right? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, to characterize a little bit further, part of the difference between the two release channels, I think in essence, you have certainly have the essence of it, right? Which is like, hey, if you're calling it stable, then more testing has gone on, more people have used it, et cetera. Like on the edge release, there is a smattering of unit and integration tests that go on. Some of those integration tests are performed even mimicking what a user would do by mouse clicking in the UI. And so it's not complete coverage, but there's some automated sequence of tests that occur before code can be released into the edge channel.
Okay. So, and about the context, the Meshery system context, because there can be only one, activated. I'm not sure how to.
Yeah, current context. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, current context. So if I change the context to with platform Kubernetes, so what exactly changed in that way? So it runs the Meshery in the Kubernetes mode, and it will be start the node.
Yeah, that's a great question. It is about that simple. Yeah, that there's a command. So before I tell you that, yeah, you end up just switching contexts, and when you do, what literally happens is, well, this is actually, memory might fail me here. Like it might leave your actively run, like, so you have a Docker-based deployment currently, which has, Meshery server and all of its adapters running in Docker. And then right over here inside of Kubernetes, there's a Meshery operator. The operator performs the routine of running mesh sync to help understand what all is going on in Kubernetes and then tell Meshery about it. So it has that Meshery operator deployment. Okay, good. So then if Robert uses the command Meshery CTL system context switch to Kate's, or to the other context, then it will, I think that switch command should actively then deploy the Meshery server containers and the adapter containers inside of Kubernetes. It would also attempt to deploy another copy of Meshery operator there, but because there's already a copy, it will not bother and just leave that running copy.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of it depends on behavior. Like if you first stop your currently running deployment in Docker, when you stop it, it's going to remove that operator as well. And so then if you switched in to do your Kubernetes deployment, it would deploy a new operator. So you either get a fresh operator or you leave the existing one, but either way, it doesn't really matter. When Meshery server first connects to the operator, it says, hey, I'm brand new, I'm new here. Why don't you tell me everything that's going on? Why don't I'll resynchronize with you completely? And so, yeah.
Okay, understood. But what are the pros? For example, in which case can I switch the context? What for exactly? What for can I do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So part of the thinking has to do with, well, potentially, like this is potentially quite interesting to you, maybe. And this part of the thinking has to deal with, okay, if I'm if I'm wearing my my lab coat, and I'm performing these, sophisticated, performance tests, and I wipe down my lab. It's a pristine environment. I go in, there's no more germs, and like a totally clean Kubernetes cluster. Nobody's running anything. It's totally, good. Okay, then I drop in my workload, and I want to analyze the heck out of that workload. I'm going to hammer, generate all the load on it and hammer it and look at it and study it. Like just at a high, like this is one example. There's probably a couple of others, but one of the considerations is like, hey, the load generator, as it generates that load, Meshery, it's going to consume some CPU and memory. Am I okay to contaminate my environment, which is totally valid, or by deploying it in cluster, or do I consider that contamination? Do I want to run it out of? It's like that's in part why the two different deployment styles are supported. Yeah, that's one consideration. The other consideration is that I think we will also find that people make a choice between running it in Docker versus in Kubernetes along these lines. This is just like, actually, we shouldn't talk about you. Let's just take an engineer in general. What's been around longer, Docker or Kubernetes? Docker. Yeah. What's a little bit easier to understand? Docker. Okay, where might everybody in the world sort of start and have more comfort with? Oh, Docker. Okay, well, like, okay. And as you go to familiarize with, okay, and so supporting a deployment in Docker can be helpful from that perspective. People don't have to ante up to Kubernetes yet to get to Meshery, so that's kind of nice. It's also the case that people might, sometimes people will reach over to Meshery and say, I've got a toolbox of various utilities that I like to use. Okay, Meshery is one of the tools in that toolbox. I'm going to just take it out real quick. I'm going to spin it up on my local Docker host to use it to run a few tests, and then the tests are done, and then I'm going to turn it off and like return the tool back to the toolbox. Like I'm done with it. I don't need it for now. Mm-hmm. But other users might say, well, we're into these service meshes where they've got ongoing problems. We need to ongoing manage their performance. We need to ongoing evaluate the configuration for best practices. We want to ongoing like visually design our apps and configure switching of routes and canaries and like all the stuff, do chaos engineer, all the stuff that you want to do that Meshery will ultimately facilitate with managing service meshes. They might say, hey, look, that's not, I don't view Meshery as a tool that I just pull out when I need it. And so I want to run it persistently, ongoing. And it isn't always going to be the case, but I think it would often be the case that people would say, okay, well, you know what, we're going to deploy, we've got like, 30 Kubernetes clusters currently. Here's one, or here's two that we're going to dedicate as our utilities servers, as like our management software servers. They're not actually running the workloads, but they're taking care of the, it doesn't have to be this design, but my point is those who are serious about running service meshes, they already have either both feet or 1 foot solidly into Kubernetes. And if they're going to run yet another application like Meshery, they're probably going to say, hey, yeah, we don't run Docker, or that's not how we use Kubernetes for our infrastructure. We'd like to run Meshery as another app in that infrastructure. And we'd like for it to be long-lived. Ongoing, we want for Meshery to, on a schedule, run these performance tests, or analyze the configuration for best practice, or do whatever they're going to do with Meshery. But yeah.
Okay.
It only took me like 8 minutes to answer that simple question, didn't it?
So sorry. No, just thank you. But when you said all the things, I just get it that so it's like it will be exactly that I see that. So I will just run, I think, in a Kubernetes mode, and it will be staying here for some days or months exactly. And I will change it, won't change it, eventually some updates. It's one way, or the second way that it will be used, for example, in a form with help charts or something like that, and will be created and destroyed in a few of hours.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, or like the CI, the continuous integration example that we were giving is like, oh, actually, maybe I need a spot instance of Meshery. Like while this other build is going on, part of the build process, spin up Meshery briefly, perform this analysis. When Meshery returns back with the performance results, it's like a green light, red light, like, or continue with the pipelining or not. And so, yeah, the lifetime of Meshery might be, just a few minutes in that case.
Oh.
Boy, the build up to this is yeah. Cool. So we've got some new issues though. Couple from, yeah. Yeah, we should keep account of how many issues Robert creates. That's the start to.
Okay.
All right. And so okay, yeah. Wait, let's think about this for just a moment. So I missed the oh yeah, you just ran Meshery CTL system switch channel. Okay, good. For my own, oh man, Nivendu, are we tracking that XDG open?
Yeah, I actually fixed it and we need to make a release.
Okay, all right. I'm curious if you do a Docker PS. I'm curious just to confirm that there's only a single instance of Meshery running. Yep, there is. And there's Minikube that's running, and basically that's it. Okay. Okay. And so, yeah, when you brought up Meshery UI, it did not ask you to log back in, right?
If I just refresh the website.
So Nivendu, you're going to see an error here where Meshery can't fetch its.
I think we will also have to do the network connection again, because what we did was not to connect to networks, but connect a containers network to Minikube network.
Yeah, so the specific containers that we interconnected before, they're gone. And so, yeah, there's a lack of network connectivity again. So Robert, if you go back to the Meshery documentation for Minikube, the Docker connect command that we want to run, instead of that, wait. Yeah, I think it's that second under the number 2 install. Yeah, that one. I think it's that one, right? Gosh. Or no, that's connecting a specific container again. Yeah.
What we can do is we can check what the name of the Meshery network is. I think it was Meshery default or something, and connect with that with the Minikube one.
Yeah, good.
So should I this?
Yeah, let me see if we can get you the command that will connect the 2 networks together, not just a container instance to a network. Yeah, I don't. So yeah, that Docker network connect command, I'm not sure if it supports network to network connection. I think it only supports container to network connection. Maybe.
Yeah, actually, we had a contributor, I don't remember, but I think we added that command, that single command, which actually cracks all of the container and joins in a single container, a single network. That's what I was actually looking for.
I think in the meantime, another way of potentially achieving this is, Robert, if you go to your command line, you do a VI on your user's home folder .meshery /meshery.yaml. This is the Docker Compose file that is used to spin up Meshery. So in here, it says what network it wants to use to deploy Meshery, I believe. So there should be
we don't specify a custom network because we rely on the default network that gets created.
Okay, well, that would be the other thing, is like to deploy Meshery onto the Minikube network. Or for the moment, Robert, just to unblock us, it'll be a transient command, but yeah, there's a bunch of ways to overcome this. Like, one is to run both of them on host-based networking so that they can both talk to each other. Another one is to deploy Meshery into the same network as Minikube. But for now, if you just run that same command that you ran before from Meshery documentation, that'll get us going for the moment.
Okay.
And okay, now that's a bug. That's a separate bug about the that one doesn't affect what we're so Navendu. That's exactly what I was telling Piyush is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't figured it out. Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah, and then I guess if you go if you click refresh, I don't know, it should.
Okay.
I can't remember. Wait a second. Where did we? What the hell? Are we deployed in Kubernetes on this one? Is that right? Okay. Then we didn't need to run those other commands, but it doesn't matter. So. Right. This is the Kubernetes cluster, or this is just the edge channel?
The edge in the previous Docker. We didn't switch to the current context to the Kubernetes. Or we did.
We would like to see kubectl get all, just to confirm if Meshery was actually deployed in the cluster. We can run kubectl get all hyphen capital A.
Yeah. Yeah. So interestingly, so this particular context that's being used is deploying on Docker, deploying Meshery on Docker, and so technically it's not an in-cluster deployment. It might be detecting it as such because it's on the same network. That doesn't So Robert, I guess if you go back to the UI, that's a little bit, I don't think I've ever seen that before, where Meshery server reports itself as being in cluster. I think that's because it thinks it's, what the hell? If you, it might be a UI defect. Like, I don't, if you go to Robert, if you want to test, so good, so we're connected now, but if you want to test the fact that you can upload your kube config.
Yeah, but here it shouldn't be the data about the version and the patch.
That's actually a bug. That's actually
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But you can run the Meshery CTL version command and it'll actually, no, that same, you'll hit the same bug, but yeah, run it, but you'll hit the same, the server won't be able to report.
It was Meshery controller.
Yeah, Meshery CTL version. So yeah, so it's, so Navendu is working on this one. But it is the latest Edge release. Like if you do Meshery CTL system context view, it'll tell you that your platform is Docker and your channel is Edge, the latest version. And so yeah, it shouldn't be saying in cluster. That's a little bit weird. And I got to imagine that has something to do with the networks being interconnected. So it's a little bit. Having said all that, when you go back to Meshery UI and you might want to go to settings and upload your kube config and let's see how it behaves. So if you in this case, probably no. It's saying, do you want to remove your Meshery operator instance? You can, but you'll just end up having to redeploy it. And in this case, it's like, oh, may as well just leave it there.
Okay, so no.
Correct. Now,
okay.
Here
could be information that the file is uploaded and something because.
Yeah, this is a little bit weird. Like, so Utkarsh, this is something for us to look at. It's sort of a question of, did it do anything or not? Like, because he didn't disconnect for it. If you disconnect that Kubernetes connection, Robert?
Here?
Yeah, if you would.
Sure.
Okay. Or actually say no in this. Oh, you know, yeah, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's okay. But then if you upload your config again. And Utkarsh, we got some. All right. So in this case, probably to say no. I don't think it won't matter either way, but. So good. Here under the covers, it is probably deploying the operator to your Minikube environment. If you, it doesn't hurt to just, you know, whatever. Anyway, if you go back, go to your dashboard and kind of take a look at, or I'm sorry, in Meshery, the dashboard, and just look at what it's saying. So it shouldn't be saying in cluster any longer. So yeah, so back in Meshery's UI, if you go to the system dashboard again, and if you refresh, just to good. So I think we're at a point by which you can go do those performance tests and see if. Yeah, so the menu changed, by the way, in this latest release.
Yeah, that's the thing here. Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. What happened to the little chevron that? Oh, okay.
Here.
Okay, wait. All right, we should. Nivendu, can you capture that, please? The lack of chevron, or the lack of it's yeah. And Utkarsh, you're tracking the state issue in the settings UI.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, with that component was just added, Robert. That's why it's a little bit yeah, finicky.
Yeah, I saw it on the meeting.
Oh yeah.
Okay, nice.
Now, something a little bit disturbing about this. So Utkarsh, to the extent that Prometheus and Grafana are not deployed, we are not. The question becomes: is Meshery server collecting Kubernetes node statistics or not? I don't think it is. I think that Prometheus has to be deployed.
yeah. Once you have Prometheus deployed and only Prometheus deployed, then you would actually have more information right here, as well as in other pages. But yeah.
Okay. Robert, I'm curious, and if you don't mind doing this next test, I'm curious to get you more node specific info at the same time. If you don't mind doing this, if you navigate away from the performance chart over to the Istio adapter, you can quickly turn on Prometheus. It'll just deploy a copy of Prometheus to your Minikube. It is that series of switches on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And fairly shortly, you should get a notification back that says Prometheus was deployed. Along with that, as you navigate back to like the system dashboard,
does Istio adapter container has access to?
oh,
Error.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's a good point. Actually, I forgot the Istio adapter, the Meshery's Istio adapter. It's running in Docker on that network that can't talk to Kubernetes. So that command that we just did is going to fail because that adapter is not connected to Kubernetes, to the network, the bridge network. So we would need to connect that adapter as well. There's an example of that in the doc under the Minikube doc. So Robert, if you go back to the docs, to the Minikube document, yeah, or the other one, the other tab that you have open, that the third and fourth set of commands in the clipboard. That's saying, hey, if you want to, like, you have to connect your other containers. So if you do Docker network connect bridge, and then you do Meshery -istio, that will connect your Istio adapter to your Minikube network. So yeah, yep, exactly. Yeah, in this case, it would be like a Docker PS, since it's running over there. And the name of it should just be Meshery -istio. Oh no, you're right. Yeah, that's right. That is what it is.
So like that?
Yeah. Now we'll do that other bidirectional connection. It was at Docker network connect Minikube, I think. Docker network connect Minikube to that same.
Oh. That happened. I got some drops here. Okay.
Thank you, Hosanna. It's been great. Oh, that's perfect. Talk to you soon, Hosanna.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. So can I run?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. And if you go to like that button right there, it says configure service mesh metrics. If you try that, there's on the right hand side, there's a Prometheus tab. Yeah. And oh no. Okay. Yeah, if you try that one.
Okay.
And, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What the hell? So that network, yeah, you've got, it's just all network. It's not all network, but it's mostly network issues that are going on. Like the Meshery server, it can't talk to that URL. So, yeah, I mean, okay, there's two things that we can do. One is, I think we can find a command that will hopefully help you bridge your, like, maybe we just need to have you run both Kubernetes Minikube on the same, using your host-based networking in the same way that maybe we need to get your Meshery deployment on the same network as your Minikube, because yeah, Meshery server cannot reach Prometheus. One way to do that is to do the in-cluster deployment. And so that would be, if you go, so I don't know if you want to try that one, the in-cluster deployment.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. If you go back to on the command line, in this case, we'll switch the contexts over to, so it'll be like, Meshery CTL system context switch Kates.
Okay. Yeah.
I think this will give you two. Okay, it might not have. Yeah, it might not be. Yeah, so okay. Just to clarify, just to help like clean if you do if you do this, you do Meshery CTL system stop -C for context and you'll say -c local, you'll stop your local deployment, which will kill the deployment that's running on Docker. You'll then start your K8s deployment. So Meshery system stop -c for context, and the context that you're going to tell it is your local one. That's your Docker-based deployment. And actually literally the name of it is local. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Nice. This will have the effect of turning down your local Docker containers. I believe it will also remove the Meshery operator from your Kubernetes cluster. That's fine. And if it doesn't, that's fine as well, because now, yeah, if you just do system start, and you don't even have to you can certainly specify it, but yeah, your current context should be K8s. But yep, so
without that, it will also run the current.
Yeah. Not that it hurts to specify it, but it just
okay.
So now we're seeing a little bit of different output, because it's like, oh, okay, it's you want to, it's like, oh, you want to do a deploy it on Kubernetes. Okay, so we'll grab the manifest files and yeah. Now, my hope here is that, and this may not be the case, I think this might not be the case, is that those containers that are downloading, I don't think that Kubernetes, that Minikube system, will leverage the same cached images. So it is most likely downloading a fresh set of images. Yeah, so I think since that so I think that process is still running. Kubernetes is still, in process of starting
okay.
Meshery. One thing that we might not have done is, in that context that you're running, it might be running a stable channel, which we might have to switch to Edge.
Okay.
So if you do system Meshery system context view, or yeah, view stable, yeah. So we probably it's.
If I change the config file.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
And then if you do a Meshery system restart, that's probably your easiest.
But they didn't start it.
So I don't know, that's 13 seconds and 2 minutes. Okay, it's a little bit curious. There's one extra copy of Meshery running, the 2-minute-old one, that needs to die. Okay.
Yeah,
it died. Yeah, cool. Good. So we have an in-cluster deployment running on the Edge channel. This is exciting. It gives us a new URL, localhost 3403. Okay. Let's see if that is in fact reachable. It may not be.
Oi, oi, oi. Oh,
And you know, that's so it might, if you go to localhost colon 9081 in your browser, it might not be on that, might be on the 9081 port.
So it's Minikube. We will have to open the tunnel.
Okay. So you do me this favor.
so
if you
I think it won't cause the port isn't forward. Oh, it is okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Does this tunnel? Oh, auto forwarded. Oh, that's interesting. So is VS Code auto forwarding those ports? That's cool.
Yeah, sometimes it is, but not always.
Oh.
Okay.
So to Utkarsh's point, Utkarsh is right that like the Minikube system is, you know, somewhere else. So if you go back to your terminal, you run kubectl get svc with a hyphen, very good, and then a hyphen n namespace Meshery. Yeah. So the Meshery instance, it's trying to get an external IP address. It's still pending. And so it's not really exposed. It's not exposed to the world outside of that Kubernetes cluster. And your web browser is on your local machine. It's outside of the cluster. So it can't get to it. And so Utkarsh's point is that there's a couple of ways to address this. One is to change the load balance, the networking type here, which is one way, or the other way is to use like a have Minikube port forward for us. And I don't, you know, either way will work. I'm a little more familiar with if you do kubect, if you do that same command that you just did, except instead of get, you do an edit. And then, very good. And then actually, sorry, I misspoke. If you cancel out of that, and if you, the same command, but you specify the name of the service as being Meshery.
I need to make it before or after.
Yeah, it's safer this way. Yeah. So, and Meshery is the name of the service. Good. At the bottom, the third to last, it says type load balancer. We could change that to node port with kind of a camel case, you know, capital N, capital P.
Okay.
And that if you save that, it should, Kubernetes should reconfigure. If you run the get, yeah, nice. Okay. Now it might be the case, I'm not sure. It might be the case that the Minikube IP address 192.168.49.2, if you type Minikube IP, and if you go to that in your web browser, colon 9081, I think. If it's not that, then it would be the other port. I can never get to my directionality correct. The other port was 30. I think it was like 3403. I can't remember.
It was somewhere here. Yeah.
Fudge.
I think we will have to specify localhost because the port forwarding is working only for the loopback interfaces. I think so.
You know what? We didn't do Minikube tunnel though.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is that the Minikube IP that's valid for, that's getting resolved in the VM, but that thing is not there. And this port forwarding is binded to the local like loopback interface, I guess.
I keep losing sight of that fact, Robert, that you're not on that VM, which is fine. Which is fine. So what?
I think we can just just to get to the UI, we can use kubectl proxy to the port, and because 908.1 is already exposed via through this VS Code SSH extension, we should be able to visit that in the browser.
Yeah. So are you saying you want him to establish a terminal session to his local host to Windows, or?
No, basically just run kubectl proxy.
Okay. So
Proxy.
So I think Utkarsh is putting the command in the Zoom chat, I think.
Okay.
The pod name needs to be replaced actually.
And doesn't that just expose it on his Ubuntu VM? I mean,
Yeah, but then the port forwarding is working, right? Like VS Code is port forwarding to 908.1.
okay.
How to get the Meshery pods exactly?
Yep, it's a kubectl get pods -n Meshery.
Okay. Exactly this one. Okay.
And now in your web browser, if you do localhost 9081 potentially.
It binded to 127.0.0.1. I think we need to provide address. Okay, then.
So literally, instead of localhost, it literally would be the numbers 127.0.0.
No, just a minute.
Okay. So which one exactly?
Yeah, I think the Vindu is, or Utkarsh is testing it at the moment, but.
Yeah, actually I've sent a command. Actually what happened was the port forwarding, I think it bounded to the wrong thing. Basically, we will probably have to specify 0.0.0 so that it binds to all the network interfaces that it finds. I think so that's the issue.
So you'll cancel that port forwarding, and then
Okay.
mm,
Should I use localhost or address of?
I think that localhost should work. So
I can use also this. No, exactly one.
yeah, I mean, it's none of this, like this is kind of funny because the vast majority of the networking stuff is not, it's just, it's not Meshery's issue per se. It's just a getting the environment set up so that somewhere in here a port isn't being forwarded to the other port. If you were to just use the is Meshery node port? So 9081. I wonder if we're not supposed to route to that 3403. Lukash, like, is Meshery server being exposed? No. Because this port forward is supposed to take it from the Ubuntu system all the way into the pod.
The container port is actually 8080. I think that's the issue. I just check the manifest. So yeah, if you would cancel this and replace 981 with 8080.
And what exactly?
If you do the exact same command, but on the end, which one, the first one or the second one?
Second one.
So instead of, yeah, it would be 8080. Yeah, all right. Looks like it's doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think browser is resending the request. So.
Or if you, alternatively, if you try to hit your Ubuntu VM again, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just took a little while. Okay.
It worked. It's not this. This is the local host.
So here's here's what's going to be frustrating is, oh no, it's running the stable release, which, like, so we have an in-cluster deployment, we have network connectivity to it, but I think we'll find that when you run a performance test, there's that manner of the UI bug that hasn't been released into stable, that's only available on Edge, I believe. Now, yeah, assuming that that's true, then for whatever reason, when Meshery CTL was when Meshery was restarted, it the edge release was not, either Kubernetes didn't spin up the edge release or like it didn't. So like, I don't know the safest, I don't know if it's because that other version of Meshery was already, if you just do Meshery CTL system stop, totally remove that deployment. Yep. And now we'll want to confirm that, see up above when you ran the command to first deploy the Meshery in cluster, it says it was downloading manifest files from like that actual version. Like it's a little bit lower than this. Lower.
I don't know, it was on the left or the right side.
Left side. It's actually almost toward the bottom. Like yeah, or down rather, down.
Down, yeah.
So it's like the third to last command that you ran. Go on. One more. There. So yeah. So you see how it downloaded the manifest for that version, and actually we don't want it to say that. We want it to say edge or master rather is what we want it to say. And so if you when you run that Meshery CTL system context view, does it say that your current context is on edge? So if you run it, okay. And now I think all your Meshery server is down, everything's probably down. So if you do a system start, let's see if that gets the right edge release. Okay, that's good. So it's grabbing master, which is edge. So good. And so there's just a couple of notes, I think, like if I'm Robert, I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, I have no idea. I can't remember all the crap that we went over. Like we went over all kinds of stuff. So, so like tomorrow or the next day when I'm trying to do this myself, I'm gonna be, searching back through my history and all this crap. It's like, well, look, actually, I think there's a couple of points like here and now bugs that are, putting you on running the edge channel. That's not a big deal. Fine. There's a bunch of networking issues between Docker networking and Minikube or Kubernetes networking, and then trying to get stuff. And it's like, oh geez. Okay, so to overcome a lot of those, you're doing an in-cluster deployment of Meshery inside of Kubernetes. So proverbially tomorrow, when you were to come back, you would do this Meshery CTL system start to get Meshery running inside of the Kubernetes cluster. It's going to say to point your browser to some port, some random port number just to re-familiarize ourselves. If you do that kubectl get svc for the Meshery namespace, we'll be able to see the fact that the Meshery, and then So by default, it wants to do a load balancer. Your Minikube cluster itself doesn't handle load balancer type networking very well. So I think we can actually leave that as is to make these sequence of steps lesser for you. It was just Meshery CTL system start, and then we're going to go do some port forwarding to get connected to that. So from here, Utkarsh, what do you think is the You could just do Minikube, like you were saying before, like a Minikube. If he tunnels, that's going to create a tunnel available on his Ubuntu system. It may not be externally exposed. So instead, if he does a kubectl port forward, I guess if you cancel your port forwarding on the right-hand side and you grab the name of the latest Meshery pod, then should be good to go. So yeah, Robert, on the right-hand side, if you cancel the port forwarding.
Yep.
Okay. And we'll just need to grab the name of the Meshery pod before you run your port forward command again. So it's that kubectl get pods -n Meshery, yeah.
Okay.
And the right, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Actually, if you just even if you just refresh, yeah, refresh.
Right.
Huh. So, so your local. I don't know if your local VS code, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so sorry.
All right. Okay. Okay, so there's that bug that's fine. I mean, but performance tests we should be able to have some success with some performance tests, I believe. And we were before, we just were being greedy and wanted to connect Prometheus, and then we're like, oh man. But so actually, if there's still a Prometheus in the environment, you might be able to connect to it. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to turn, even if it's already there, it doesn't hurt to turn it on. And okay. On the right, actually, before you do that, actually really quick, just the configure service mesh metrics, the button on that, yeah.
Okay.
And then, oh, okay. So yeah, it looks, okay. So
actually, I think we rely on it to be of right load balancer, and it could be the reason. If you would just see Kubernetes services, and if the external IP is still pending, probably that's the reason.
Right, because okay. So back in your terminal, if you run the kubectl get svc hyphen big A, capital A, yeah. So there's Prometheus running.
Yeah, it's pending.
So Meshery server can't talk to it, right? Like that's because it wouldn't be Meshery UI, right? Or it wouldn't be his web browser, right?
Yeah.
So are you recommending we change the networking from load balancer to like cluster IP, or? Wait, did you say yeah?
No, actually, I'm still thinking how we
Okay.
can.
Yeah. But it's just Meshery server that needs access though, right?
Yeah. So in that case, for the load balancer is, I think we try to ping it, but I think that also happens from Meshery server. That's something that even I will have to confirm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. So yeah, if you, this isn't going to hurt anything. So if you edit that Prometheus service, so if you do kubectl edit service Prometheus, and then you'll have to specify the namespace as Istio system.
So
Edit, yeah. And you'll take, yeah, you'll delete, you'll get rid of the big A.
take it away.
And then on the end, you'll specify namespace Istio system.
Okay.
I think it's a hyphen. Instead of an underscore.
Ah, yeah.
And instead of type load balancer, I assume that cluster IP will work.
Is it like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
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 I think that'll work. So, if we go back to the Meshery UI, it should be that Meshery server can talk to it. Yeah, yeah. If you,
It was at the no.
well, right. Huh. Yeah, but this is a little bit weird. If
Can you deploy Prometheus in Meshery namespace? Then check.
yeah, so we'll probably have to give him a manifest to do. Oh, okay, yeah. If you go back to the if you go to the Istio adapter in the Meshery UI, so yeah, you go to
The dashboard. Yes.
Yep, and then Istio, and then when just before you flip that on, if you do in the namespace field, if you delete default and you type Meshery, yeah, and then
Great.
yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then flip the switch. It may or may not honor that, but yeah, let's see. I'm curious that notification in the upper right-hand corner, where it says 2. Oh shit, what time is it? Okay. Just a meeting with HPE later. And yeah, so the number 2 on the bell in the upper right-hand corner, I'm curious just to know if there's any further details for that second one. If you click on the card, like, yeah. Oh, cool. It says mesh. Okay, let's see if it, what's his name? Udkarsh, that's a defect, right? It says from the default namespace, but it's not actually a default. So Robert, if you go to the dashboard or to the system settings or some, like, if you configure Prometheus, damn it. Can you just refresh your screen to press like a Control R or whatever, just to humor me? Or refresh your browser rather.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, that didn't have any effect. Okay, yeah. I don't, so the assumption is that mesh sync is connected. Like if you go to this right here on the environment tab on the same the cloud called environment, that yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know that your operator is, if you turn that on, yeah. Let's see if it eventually, if you go back to the command line, run Meshery CTL system status. Okay. If you go back to the UI, hopefully it will have connected, but it doesn't seem like it will have. So the operator not initially. Can you do, just for giggle? I think, okay, it's possible that we've psyched out the operator because we redeployed and deployed and then stopped and started, and like it's gotten, it might have gotten a little, if you remove the Kubernetes connection, and in this case, maybe you should just delete it. Yeah, just to kind of start fresh. And yeah, if you want to, yeah, that'd be great to discover cluster. And then if you go back to looking at the Meshery CTL system status, it should be the case that I was going to assume that the operator is going to be going down. And if it doesn't, that just proves that that operator has been orphaned and isn't really part of the Meshery deployment. So if you do status again, Meshery CTL system status, and if it doesn't turn to terminating, then so we might want to force this by what we would just put the CRD to Udkarsh, to which we just turn down the CRDs and then
yeah, that will delete the resource.
Yeah, I don't know why. So if you do, Robert, if you do kubectl delete CRD, no, I'm sorry, kubectl delete mesh sync and then use the namespace Meshery or space n, yeah, that, yep.
Like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I didn't, okay.
It's
or should it be Meshery?
Mesh syncs? Or was it?
Yeah, I think it's mesh syncs.
Yes, or
probably it's just maybe it's, instead of mesh sync, it's mesh syncs with an S. And I don't think it takes the Meshery hyphen. Yeah. Okay. So if you do kubectl get CRDs. Yeah, close. In this case, it's right. It's actually kubectl get custom resource definition. So it's CRD. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There, it's that, like, if you, that name meshsyncs.meshery.layer5.io, if you do kubectl delete, yeah.
Actually, it's complaining that we are not specifying the name of the resource that we want to take. So basically, kubectl delete meshsync, whatever it is, hyphen in Meshery space Meshery hyphen meshsync is what we talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, this is fine. Just append hyphen in Meshery.
Yeah, on the end of the line, you'd specify namespace Meshery.
Okay.
And then we have to specify one more.
Meshery hyphen meshsync. I think that's it.
Meshery hyphen meshsync. Okay.
I like that.
Yeah. That's a lot of mesh. That's a lot of Meshery. Okay. So since we zapped it in the head, the Meshery operator, it should notice that there's no more mesh sync hanging around, and spin another one up. And so you could do a Meshery CTL system status to see if it's coming up. No, it's not coming up yet. So if you do that status again. Okay, so. Yeah, so, okay. So in order to clean this out, you could do something like, we probably just want to remove the operator altogether. So, which would be like you do,
I think we can just delete the pod. So Kubernetes and will basically respin it up.
For the operator or for mesh sync?
For operator. So when operator will be deleted, it will delete mesh sync also with itself. And then Kubernetes will actually recreate it and operator will actually deploy mesh sync.
Yeah, because we deleted the custom resource, actually, I'm just realizing that. Anyway, so the thing you're asking Robert to do is to do kubectl delete pod namespace Meshery, and then what, Meshery operator, is that what you're saying?
Yep. Basically the pod name, Meshery of the pod name.
You might have to do a tab, or if you hit, yeah, if you hit tab from there, does it fill in the rest?
No, tab.
So I have to get the pod names and then put in the operator name.
So like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then if you just start looking at the status to see if it's going to come back up.
Yeah.
So the operator's coming back up, but okay. After about a minute, it should have spun up a new mesh sync, but I'm not sure that it will because we told it not to have one.
maybe. So for actually, I just tested out. We can still connect to Prometheus if we want to move ahead there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably if you would navigate back to the dashboard, Chrome browser. In the metric section, the third section. The metric section that, yeah.
You're close. Keep traveling your mouse the same direction.
Metrics.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Prometheus,
Yeah.
you can specify http:// http
HTTP.
: / Prometheus.
Yeah.
Dot istio-system.
Istio.
-system dash system.
Okay.
:1990.
1990.
Click on, yeah. Click on create, the drop down that is coming.
Yeah. Okay.
And now try submit. Click.
Okay.
Now you can try running performance test.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, so from the performance, because the metrics are here set up.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, if you go back, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, am I good?
Well, I was just curious if you go to the metrics tab again and you click on that little Prometheus chip. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. There's some weirdness going on, but yeah, good. And then yeah, if you go run a test, let's see if it not only displays the performance test results, but and so in here, by the way, this is your preferences. So if you change these, then you don't have to fill it in again, like because it'll.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and the performance is
right
here.
Right.
Do I should use someone? No,
you,
no.
You can't. You know what? It doesn't have any effect. It's just a label. So so.
Okay. Oh, okay. It already is here. Save. Right.
I think the boards are not configured, so I wonder if it would show anything.
Right. It would just be the static boards, like. But I don't know if it will. If you scroll, yeah, that's what we do. Damn it. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Good.
We can actually quickly do for Grafana also, because we now know how to connect to it. So just switch it on and enter the address. Grafana will be connected, and if that's something we can, we want to.
Yeah. Now, but it would have the default board. You know, it's one of the. This is an educate. Robert will have like. This is the problem is like it'll ship Istio boards, and then they may or may not be interesting to Robert in this case. We can give Robert some de facto Grafana boards, and like we should have an article that tells people how to, use some static, use some Prometheus node boards that they could. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Robert, this is like we were just trying to get you into some additional feature areas of Meshery where you can look at your infrastructure and its performance at the same time that you're looking at the service and its performance. And so, can you do me a favor? Can you hit run test one more time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And
well, there is no way I will remember the all things we set up.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And then if you exit out of this, we're like, good, we got more results. And then if you, okay, so this is something that we need to improve on, but to show you the fact that you have multiple, if you refresh the screen or yeah, we need to make it, yeah. I mean, we need to make it less clicky, but no, Robert, you would think if you click on that right there that it would do something, right? Well, we haven't gotten that far. Like, we don't know, we haven't made it, but if you click on manage profiles, yeah, yep. And yeah.
And what?
Yeah, I guess any of it. Really.
It's for downloads, yeah, or
yeah, or if you, yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. Now, if you load up like 3 or 4 comparisons, it'll change the graph on you a little bit because it's just too hard to read otherwise. But just as an FYI. I think that the way that this is displayed, I think that the labeling that we have up above, where it's like test A, test B, yeah, I think it's crap. I think it needs a significant improvement on the metadata up above, but the graph itself isn't too horrible. I mean, the colors could be better. What would be nice is like, okay, so if I'm Robert, I would be saying things like, okay, great, this is fun, this is interesting, I've got things to study and analyze, but also, I would also like to, at the same time, be comparing the CPU performance of my Kubernetes node during my first test with the CPU performance of my node with my second test, and then contrast those as well. And that's when we'll need to get a Grafana connected for you, or Prometheus and Grafana connected, and we can get into those a little bit more.
These are the lines, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
those are the line. The line is the cumulative percentage of latency at that point in time. Okay. Which is, yeah, this actually takes a little bit to interpret this, which is to say, okay, you ran 2 tests. They were both 15 seconds apiece. They both were using 5 connections. They both actually, or you said to send 5 queries a second, and they both did in fact send 5 queries a second. I think across 5, so it's like 5 times 5, because you had 5 connections and 5 queries per second. So like 25 queries per second across all 5 for 15 seconds. It actually ran for 15.1 seconds. It didn't get any HTTP 500s back. So you got all 2, there's no error. You got all, the endpoint that you were hitting was google.com. You did it on this date. The name of the test that you ran, since you had said none, you said, what's my service mesh? You said none. It just made up a unique identifier and called it no mesh. Yeah. And then the histogram, like we would do well to write up a better description of how to interpret the histogram, but it's bucket, at a high level, it's a 15-second time spread from 0 on the x-axis, on the x-axis from 0 to 15 seconds. I'm sorry, I'm telling you wrong. The x-axis is the latency, and the buckets are like, hey, how many, the median count, the median latency of the, how many requests were actually sent. If you hover on the graph again, it should actually tell you how many. Okay, that's the count for it's it takes a while to interpret, but the number of requests that you were able to send in 15 seconds using that configuration, the histogram is bucketizing the latency associated with a given request, And if it fell into this bucket, like between 108 milliseconds and 120 milliseconds, how many requests, what's the histogram count for that bucket? Like 68 fell into the 120, between 110 and 120 millisecond bucket. So the individual buckets are saying, here's the number of requests that took that long. The line, that cumulative line, is saying, well, of the here's the cumulative total from 0 milliseconds all the way up to 120 milliseconds. 78% of them were less than 120 milliseconds for test A. For test B, 91% of them were less than 120. And like part of this is like, well, why is there fluctuate? It wasn't the same test. It's like, well, yeah, except you went out over the internet, so good luck. Or that's part of the fluctuation, right? And it's also like, well, it was only 15 seconds, so like why don't you do it for 5 minutes and then see how much of a fluctuation there is? And still, it's like, well, if it was going over the internet, it's still hard to explain the fluctuate, or the way to explain it is like it's going over the internet. So, but if you have that local envoy, I think since you're deployed in cluster now, your Meshery server might be able to hit that envoy. I don't know.
I think not. No.
Oh, okay. But yeah, and then Meshery gives you the facility to say, you're sitting there saying, okay, great, this was my 5 connections for 5 seconds, test at Google. Great, that's a performance profile that I have. Now you're going to make a number of other ones. You'll handcraft those profiles. Like this one's going to be testing the Envoy system at this over here for 20 minutes, and blah, blah. You'll be able to save those and rerun them, as you need to. What's the thing? If you end up needing to pass along, you want to mess with the JWT with a token, or you want to send a post request, not a get request, or as you get, as you go in, when you're running a performance test and you're filling in the form, there is this advanced options area where you can put in HTTP headers into your
yeah. You mean here?
Yeah, and good, we have examples. So yeah, it's a key value pair. It's a JSON encoded key value pair. Headers, cookies, content type, request body. Good. Boy, we could use some more examples of. But yeah, can you know what? Let's try Nighthawk, man. Let's not let ourselves off the hook. If you.
Is the 5
Yeah.
not too small? Not should I increase them? Okay.
Yeah, have a do what you. My only counsel to you is like, if you hammer on GitHub.com, it won't like it, and they will rate limit you. But I don't think Google cares. So. Yeah.
Okay. For compare with Fortio, we can go 5.
Right. Yeah. Good. Oh. So
I think it encountered some error because it's saying there were 100% errors.
Yeah, which is to say, like, I don't think the test, or so the test didn't. I don't think the test ran at all. Like it. It isn't liking, or this is the open question I'd had on Nighthawk, was like, we have an open issue with the Nighthawk integration. It might be, oh, well, this one worked. Oh, no, oh, damn it. So you're on mute. You can, we can try hitting a different host that doesn't go out. Like it might have an issue with HTTPS. It might have an issue with SSL. Don't remember if that was the thing. Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Or if you do it 3 times, it'll work. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Navendu. I know it's late for you.
Okay, you want to try something without HTTP? I understand you correctly?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see if it if you just do HTTP and or I mean, actually, my concern was that you weren't going to be able to get that to work at all, but it turns out it did work. I'm not sure if it just needed a moment to warm up or what the. Can you run it again like a couple of times? Like I don't. This is something that we might want to. Oh wait, so that was Nighthawk, right? I'm sorry, that was Fortio that you did.
Can you try Nighthawk once again? Expect it to work.
Damn it.
The errors are so quickly obtained. Oh.
Yeah, what's it? So yeah, if we find another endpoint to hit, that might make a difference.
Try this.
Oh.
Yeah. So I could have lied earlier. Like it might be that Google really doesn't like that. I don't know. It doesn't mind it when you do it with Fortio. I don't know. So here's the interesting thing. We should see. Damn it.
Okay.
But Utkarsh, you were getting stats back, right, on this? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still getting stats actually. That's why I said that you are.
Right. Robert, can you do me 2 favors? One, briefly, can you go look at the Meshery CTL system logs and let's see if it's obvious, like that there's a system logs. This might go on for a little while.
Okay, wait, hang something.
Okay, so we had if you go, I think there was a panic back up there, probably around the time that you were running a performance test. So you scroll up. So those are the adapters and they're doing all right. Here, so the Google Nighthawk starting test listening, unable to ping. Utkarsh, that's interesting that the mesh sync issue that we were looking at before, it's the same error message here. But in part, I don't know what Kube API has to do with running a performance test, other than the fact that like it wants to look at Kube API to pull over node specific data. And that service account is clearly, like, I don't know why there's a Meshery service account in the default namespace is what it looks like it's saying. but yeah, it's trying to get the resource nodes, and that's that static board. It's trying to retrieve CPU and memory. So yeah, Utkarsh, this is, yeah, we have there's an error issue here, but I don't know that like that's obviously that's not stopping Fortio from running. So why that affects Nighthawk, I don't know. Maybe that's just a different. Okay, so that's a wild goose chase. That's a red herring. Robert, if you run the same test but you do it with WRK2, I think that will be successful.
Okay.
Now, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the Fortio we're using as a Golang library. WRK2 and Nighthawk we're using as system level C-based programs. So in order to invoke that, so Utkarsh, Robert, I think there's probably some things for us to investigate here on WRK2 and Nighthawk.
So just as a last test, can we perform a test where concurrent requests are low as well as QPS is low for Nighthawk? Because basically what I'm anticipating is it could be because Nighthawk is run as another utility, not a library. So it could be that it's running out of resources and it's crashing while we are spinning it up. Yeah. So run a test with Nighthawk with low query concurrent request in QPS just as a test. Not that would be that would suffice the real use case, which is figuring out what's happening.
And I'm not sure if I understand you correctly to run Nighthawk with
Yeah,
small number of.
Can you try setting concurrent requests to something low?
3 is okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so and other is okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look back at the Meshery server system logs, but specify just Meshery. Meshery server system logs, Meshery. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if that Ubuntu VM, if its resources are low. So Meshery has connectivity. So we definitely have a resource, an API unable to ping Kubernetes though. Okay, so right now, Utkarsh, Nighthawk is running on your system. You're running it at a lower, at a low concurrency rate. There's clearly a couple of items for us to look into. There shouldn't be a couple of these errors shouldn't be there. But Robert, Yep. So yeah, I think actually the thing is when you do this tomorrow, or whenever, that you'll start Minikube, you will deploy Meshery in cluster, so you don't have the networking challenges. You don't have to minify your kube config either, because it's just going to use the in cluster credentials. So actually you'll be pretty far along by, and then you'll be able to run performance tests using 4TO. And yeah, I mean, you'll be able to, you should be able to play around with deploying a service mesh if you want to. There's a couple, but there's a couple of bugs that we're tracking. I mean, some of them were just like nice to have convenient things of like, some of them are the ones that are probably the most urgent, I think, for what you're trying to do is probably with respect to this one. So Utkarsh, this one right here, where it's basically the mesh sync issue, the forbidden user issue of the service account. That's probably the most, it's probably getting in Robert's way with respect to collecting node level statistics of CPU and memory. That'll also assist with, I think, mesh sync itself, and Robert not having to type in his Prometheus connection so that it just auto discovers and he can just auto connect to Prometheus. But I guess what I was trying to say is, like, Robert, while we have a couple of bugs that we're going to go off and work on, there's things for you to familiarize with and play with. And, one thing I'll note real quickly so you don't get potentially frustrated, and maybe it doesn't matter, but just as an FYI, is one of the differences between the local provider and the Meshery provider is that when you spin back up, when you restart Meshery and connect to that local provider, if you have invested time in those results won't continue to be available. Those are transient. Those are like for that instance of Meshery. I think literally if you stop and start the same instance, I think you'll still have the local, you'll still have your performance test. It's just that I'm mentioning it so that you don't like invest 2 hours in running in all kinds of tests and then want to sit there and analyze them for a long time. And then all of a sudden they go away, because just be aware that the lifetime of those tests follows the life cycle of that container instance. And so you can import and export performance profiles. So, if you've written one out and it's, all sophisticated and it's got cookies and, request headers and all, like, eventually you will be able to use, I believe, the command line to provide a file that describes your performance profile. And that way, I don't think in the UI, I don't believe it. The UI lets you kind of download, like if you go view results right now for any of them, and if you click on just a single one of them, there are, okay, I think it didn't do it because probably that was a broken test, but if you do the second one that's probably a broken, any of them that have the numbers in the,
okay, sure.
Wait a second, failed server problem. Okay, so
Okay.
And are those just totally empty? Failed server problems. You can even that doesn't have anything to do with is the provider. Anyway, point is, that would just contain it would contain a description of your performance profile. It would also have tabular based results, or it would it wouldn't have the graph, but it would have like a description of the test that you were generating, the duration and etc., and then the results too. It won't have infinite detail of like every single request and what its latency was. It's not like that. It's a summary, but you might be having a challenge with downloading it, maybe because it's the local provider that's supported. It's just that I don't think anyone's used that for a long time. So I don't know if there's a, anyway, that's, I'll take this note as well to confirm on my system if, because one thing that might be happening, it's possible, is like your client, your browser is on your Windows machine, on your laptop or your whatever, your workstation. You're connecting to your Ubuntu VM. Like, it shouldn't be the case that there's a, the tunnel that you have set up. Don't you have a tunnel? Yeah, that's probably getting in the way of, I don't know. That might be getting in the way. If it's trying to push this file through the tunnel. Yeah. So the other thing too is maybe to look at not having you run kubectl proxy, but you setting up a more permanent configuration so that you've got a Kubernetes server, Meshery is deployed, it's permanently exposed over a load balancer, over a load balanced interface, or using an ingress controller or something else that's more robust, so you don't have to sit there and run that kube proxy, because you shouldn't have to. There's other users in the community that I'm sure would love to engage and share some of their configuration. Like, we don't get really opinionated about a lot of the stuff that the networking that you were looking at, because everybody's got an opinion. Everybody, or a lot of different places have different network configs that they want to do, and so. But that said, we can get you an ingress controller configuration that will just help make your Meshery deployment a little more permanent and stable and less. I'm assuming that's what's going on with this download. But anyway, in concept, you can take that downloaded file, the descriptor that's in there, and then you can pass that along to Meshery CTL to run performance tests from the command line with using the same, without having to rewrite your performance profiles.
Okay.
Oh, good. Yeah, Robert. This is, I think, it's nice that. So thanks for. I think there's patience being exercised all around, for all of us. Yeah, thanks for that. It's we've got a really interesting project that's going to be really capable. It's hard to get there with the goodwill of open source contributors coming by, but I do expect, as some of a couple of the bugs are cleaned up, that this area is the oldest, most stable area. So
I'm really thank you for your time. So
yeah, no, yeah, it's good. There's a guy in the community. His name's Samir. He's a user of Meshery as well. He's running Meshery in Azure Kubernetes services, and he's a bit more of a DevOps guy or an operations guy. And so we'll have to introduce you to him so he can help exchange maybe some Kubernetes configs, like an ingress controller or something else that is helpful to overcoming some of the network challenges. Good. I think this is, I feel like we made a lot of progress. You learned a lot of things. There's still more stuff to explore, a couple of bugs to fix. Do you, maybe if you have time, maybe we'll see you on tomorrow's call. I'll introduce you to Samir. We'll ask him some of those questions. there's a couple bugs that we're going to follow up on. Robert, do you remember your GitHub username?
Yeah, I wrote it on the
In there. Yeah, and we'll try to do our best to tag you on some of the issues so that you can be aware of. If you see that an issue has been resolved, that because the PR has merged into master, that means that automatically there's a new edge release where that issue should be fixed. So okay, yeah, there is RZ. And we'll try to tag you so that it's easier to. Nice. Hey, Robert, dude, I know it's after 5 for you, after 7, after whatever. So
yeah, it's a long time for me today.
Yeah, and Utrash is sitting there thinking, 7? That was like 7 hours ago, So anyway, cool. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow, but either way, we'll catch you very soon.
Okay. So I want to confirm the Docker platform will run if I change the config file with the Minify. And you said that tomorrow when I wake up, the Kubernetes will working too, or I misunderstood that? Because exactly today we did many things.
Yeah. I think both the things that you just said are true. That on the first one, if you run it in Docker, you'll need to minify the config, but also address the network connectivity between them. And now, and I think you can do. I think you can do that. I think you'll be successful. I think what will end up happening is you might try to reach your Envoy system or something, like you might be somewhat perpetually plagued with network connectivity issues from that local Docker private network. So you, but I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, hey, be aware. And that the in-cluster deployment, that it's the edge-based deployment right now. And 4TO for sure is solidly working. And WRK2 has been solidly working for a long time as well. So I wonder if it isn't system resource stuff. But anyway, for sure, 4TO. And yeah, we might want to just write down to the extent that you dabble with. So one of the things to talk to Samir about is not only just like an ingress controller, like some more permanent way of exposing Meshery to outside your cluster, but also it's not just he's not the linchpin for this, but to have him potentially share some Grafana boards, like to the extent that you start to dabble with connecting up Prometheus and Grafana, that you can then look at statistics other than just what you're seeing in the histogram, because then you can look at, but I think you'll need some default content, default boards. And actually they really, like with any Grafana deployment, they should be there. But anyway, we'll try to help you with that. There's some people in the community that are really nice and they'll try to help. So. Yeah, sorry, that was long. Yes, I think the short of what you said will work. In-cluster deployment should work on edge. And the Docker-based deployment with the caveats around the flattening and the.
Because for the next day, I need to have a stable version and then to make some benchmarks because you have delays. So that's why I'm asking. Okay, so I will start with the Docker and then if something happens, because in the future, I don't know if we need to have some Kubernetes.
Right.
Working some working setups. So that's why I'm asking.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot. Like if you're not running anything on yeah, I guess we just kind of ignored that. We were so focused on getting Meshery connected to Kubernetes that like, if all you're doing is performance testing on systems that aren't running on Kubernetes, then then you shouldn't have to connect to Kubernetes. Like we were kind of chasing down all that stuff mostly for Kubernetes support.
Yeah, there will be error prompts coming in because we expect a few things to be present in environment, but performance test should run just fine.
Yeah.
And there won't be any more data because we get that from Kubernetes API.
Right. So Robert, yeah, no, you don't. If you're not testing things on Kubernetes, you don't have to have Kubernetes to run performance tests.
Well, not yet.
Okay, yeah, sure. You will see some annoying messages saying, "Oh, this isn't connected" and that kind of stuff. But we can work to make sure that those don't show in your, that we can go turn off some of those notifications. Right now, we were so focused on thinking that people would have it that we let some of that slip, so. Cool. Good. Are you good? Are you good? Are we let us know how it goes tomorrow?
Maybe not, because today I'm at 13 hours.
Oh.
Yeah, so I need to make a small break after work. So maybe next day.
Oh, sure.
And,
Sure.
yeah, and I also a lot of work, so I may not be able to check that all.
It actually might work out better because we might have a couple of bugs fixed by the time that you come, that you refocus.
Yeah, so for me, it's better to make it a few days. Of course, if something happens, then I will message you if I found some news to show you. Sounds
great. Sounds good. Yeah, take your time. Don't. I kept on saying tomorrow because and I wasn't thinking that I was actually dude. We will be here. Whenever. Cool. Robert, it's been.
Yeah.
No, it's been good. It's been.
Yeah. So thank you for time. Thank you for making it working on the Docker. So it's the first step to
Nice.
Take it further.
Good. Okay. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, Robert. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.